said it's our podcast.
Yes, it is. It's more than a podcast, but it's going to start off with a podcast. I think it's going to end up being a nice movement.
Okay.
That's what I feel anyway.
I have no expectations.
That's what's up. I like that. I kind of like that there's no expectation because that way it can go whichever way it's supposed to and evolve how it's supposed to.
I just know when stuff, you know when stuff don't do right though.
Yeah. You gotta let the shit go.
They get a little messy.
A little messy.
A little messy.
All right. You want...
What, why we made the podcast?
Yeah, you got the questions.
I'm supposed to be asking them. That's why I have them up.
No, because like you have them up.
Right. Okay, so I'm the narrator. That's what you're saying. Got you.
No, like not just you. It's more so I was getting ready to say it. Like, okay, so like we could tell them why we started the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. Why?
Oh,
yeah.
Me first.
It don't matter what first. It's just really like, let's explain to the people.
Okay. Why we made the podcast. We actually had a conversation one day, and it was during the summertime, and I don't know how we got on the topic, but we already knew we both had parents that have what we call it, superpower?
I call them superpowers, but the world says mental illness.
Mental illness.
Or mental disorders.
And, we were having a conversation, and we both were just like, realized that we both were bullied when we were in, middle school, whatever age. Whatever age. And like we were both kind of waiting for people to say, that's why your mama crazy.
Yours was mama, mine was my daddy.
Yeah.
My mama, that's a whole nother story. But my daddy was the one that was like, that's your daddy crazy.
Yeah, so we were both kind of waiting on it, and we realized like we needed space for that. And that was why we made the podcast. Well, my reasons. Your reasons come too.
Yeah, mine are kind of the same. Like, we need space for it, but I felt like people needed space for it. Because we're not the only ones out there with parents with superpowers. Or any family members with superpowers. Because, like, crazy is my trigger word. Because it's not just a parent. I have multiple family members who have diagnosed superpowers, to include myself. So it's the parts where, no, it's just my fucking trigger word, because I take those people very personal. And however society sees them, it's how society sees them. But how I view them is completely different, and I'm not here. I don't play about my folk.
Yeah.
I don't play about my folk. But when it comes to like my daddy, that's my daddy. I'm his superpowers.
Yeah, and that comes to mind. We also made it so that we can normalize talking about it. Yeah. Because it's not like one part of the world is over here drinking some special Kool-Aid and then they got, they end up with the jump.
Yeah.
No, it's everybody knows somebody that has some type of mental illness or superpower, and like it should be normalized.
It should be, and I think it's because of the stigmas. Like, often it's the parts where you it was, for me, like the other part about this was having the conversations that weren't the moments when people deemed them crazy, and like highlight my father in the ways in which I saw him most days, not when he was in a manic. Most days were not manics. You know what I mean? And I don't think that particular side of them gets shown or talked about and discussed enough.
Yeah, or on TV too. TV, they try to make people like extreme, or like I remember in high school or middle school hearing girls being like, I can go crazy from one to, from one, I'm bipolar. No, that's not what that is. That's not what that is. That's not what that is. Don't say that.
They used to be a trigger.
Yeah, like,
I could get crazy.
Yeah, like, that's not what that is.
It's not. And I don't think you want to get crazy.
That's what you talking about.
Yeah, you just want to fight.
Yeah, you want to fight. That's a different word. You know what I mean?
You ain't crazy.
Yeah.
Not for real.
Right. Because I've lived.
I know crazy. That's the thing, though. I know crazy. I know manic.
Yeah.
Manic to me isn't crazy though. Manic is pushed buttons. I think that's the part that goes untalked about. Like a lot of times, even in movies and film, I think the only thing that I saw so far where they did a great job displaying the person with mental illness, and that's because he suffers in real time with bipolar, was in the show Dave. And there was a character, the black character on there.
Dave?
He was like,
I've never seen
Dave. Dave is I think it's FX show. Shout out there, you know. But the king that's on that show, his particular character, he was mannequin and going through some things, but if you don't know, you just think he was hype, he was cool peoples, and then he had a moment, and then it looked like he was flaking, and it was like this up down, and they did such a great job showing all of him, his value, his worth, and his moments of manic, right? And then later on, he shared with the world that that's because he does suffer from bipolar disorder, and he wanted to make it clear that you can have these kind of careers and flourish in these particular types of lanes, no matter the disorder. And like stuff like that is the things where for me it was like, okay, what is it that I'm gonna create one day that's gonna help have a voice, right? For the people who with mental illness, mental disorder. I just say superpower. I just say that they process their emotions the way they process their emotions, and when you take and put those people around gaslighters, then you see explosions happen.
What's your dad diagnosed with?
He's bipolar. Schizophrenic. Or is he? Nope, he is bipolar schizophrenic. I believe his diagnosis was bipolar schizophrenic.
My mom had the same. Yep. She was diagnosed at the age of 16, and
So your mom always knew?
Yes.
My dad didn't.
Always knew.
He was a police officer, served for Philadelphia Police Department for 16 years. Wow. And it was after some crazy stuff happened, like a situation happened while he was at work. They finally did a psych eval, and the psych eval gave him a diagnosis, and they gave him early retirement.
That's what's up. Yeah, my mom worked for the government for over, I think, 20 years. But I don't know.
Did they know?
I don't know. I think so. I think she told a couple of her bosses, like her boss.
They may have known though, because by that point it was like illegal to like not hire somebody because they have a disorder of some sort.
Right. So I think she knew, and that's another thing we can probably talk about before medicine and we can talk about that. That's another episode. Sure. Medicine.
That's gonna be an episode all in itself. Medicine.
So she has. Well, let me go back. My aunt. We had a conversation when I was, I think, 18. She told me that my mom had mental health disorders, but I knew my mom was different, but I didn't know how different. I'm very good at observing, but 16 when I found out, 16 to 18. I don't remember what age she told me. She told me, and I was like, oh, and she was like, yeah, she takes medicine for whatever, but I don't think, not normal people, but like the people that she didn't work with or she wasn't family didn't know that she had schizophrenia. Because there's been times where I've told people, I was like, Ella, my babysitter at one time, for a long time, me and my brothers, after school, and I was like, did you know my mom had schizophrenia? She was like, no. But
that's the part I
that's what it is.
It's always like,
it's like that. It's like that little bit of I seen it.
I seen it.
Right. A little something in it. But most people be like, no, she didn't have it. Or but see, that's the thing.
It depends on how they met them.
Yeah, she had friends. They were couples. We used to go out. It was just. But so when people go, I can go. I'm like, that's not even what that is.
Most of the times, what I've found over the years is that most people view my dad, especially like as a nuisance. Like, because he'll call you, like, now don't get it twisted. When my daddy is in a manic, child, I have had 60 missed calls from that man just for him to tell me about his day, okay? And
I know that's right.
You know,
you gonna hear about my day to day.
But the thing is, you gonna hear about the day, the last decade, wherever he is in that manic. You know what I mean? You know how that go. Yeah. So like, and that can be deemed annoying to people over time, like friends and stuff like that. But same, like my dad was never like. Once people found out, it was like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah,
I knew it was
like,
something.
And my my Rev did this one time to us, me and my wife, because I think once you know somebody and then you find out something about them, you go, oh, okay, all right. But when you go, oh, they're gay, and then because then that stops you from, you know what I mean? And I think that happens a lot with
mental illness. Yeah, it's like if they know straight off the bat. I feel that with myself. That like when I come out the bat and I tell people I have PTSD and anxiety, they automatically treat me different. But when I don't tell them anything and I do what I do, and then they find out, they be like, "What? Yeah. Really? I didn't even know, girl.
You do that well."
Yeah. I was doing it well when you fucking knew. But okay, thank you. That's my dad. Like. He had manics, and I think people did see him do certain things. But what I learned was that, or what I will always witness was it's the poked bear of it. Like, they don't get there until they're poked and provoked to get there.
I don't think I've ever seen my mother. She's always not been in my eyesight when she's ever been poked. I've seen her, so like, it'll be like kids. We in a room full of kids. She had a boyfriend that lived in Southeast off V Street. Southeast? Yeah, Southeast off V Street, I think. Or Southwest, I don't remember. But we would all be in the one room, and I remember hearing some stuff going on out back with all the adults. And my mother come in, that bit my finger back. Okay. And she's like, let's go. Oh. And then my mother's boyfriend came in running after behind her like, yeah, y'all do too much. Then I realized that they got into a fight back there. But see, I wasn't over there. And then there was another time, but I've never seen her in her being poked. I've never seen it. I don't know. Yeah, no, I've never seen it.
When the time I spent with my dad, because I didn't meet him until I was 8. Or meet him again, get reacquainted and be around him again until I was 7, almost 8. But I grew up with his family and knowing my grandma, my aunts, and uncles and stuff. My dad, the only time he did manic was after being poked. And I would watch while, especially whomever the wife was, poke, and then boom, here's the flame. And then, you know, you get to do the victim and all of the things. And it's just the spiral and it's ugly. But one of the things I don't think that they get enough credit for is when they are poked and provoked and they still don't go to whatever magnitude they used to go to. Like, I remember the first time when my dad, he was poked and provoked and he went there and it was ugly. And then the last time he was poked and provoked in front of me and, like, he refused to respond the way that you could tell the person was wanting him to respond. And, like, he went inward. That was when he would go inward or like punch a wall or something like that. But he wouldn't hit anybody. He wouldn't let anybody bring him to being physical towards someone else because he zoned out and he went somewhere else. He would do that. Like I would watch my dad get poked, but I also watched him evolve and show such strength. It was just when those poke moments happen, it can feel so scary when you're little. And if the adults around you only talk about the poke, you know what I mean? It could tarnish amplify it. So you think only about that moment when they had the manic and you forget about like all the days prior and all the lessons prior and all the fun you had with that particular parent prior to them getting poked by this bear.
That's messed up. Who could do the most poking?
It was always his
mates.
It's
always the whites?
It was always not even just the wives, the women in his life. Like the women that he chose to be intimate with. And I think it's because...
Do you think that's something that he picks?
I think it's like, it's very, and I wonder if there's something to prove behind this. Like my theory is that like those with those certain types of superpowers, that manic, bipolar, schizophrenia, stuff like that, they tend to attract people who are more narcissistic. And so they attract the people almost that will ignite them, you know, not intentionally.
Like the opposite.
Yep. Not even the opposite. It is literally your trigger. They attract their triggers. That's what I've witnessed over the years. And I don't know if that's a truth or not like that. Like, I'm not proclaiming to be nobody's motherfucking therapist. I'm going to put that out there. Disclaimer, motherfuckers. I am not that. But I do. It feels like there's some type of correlation with certain mental illnesses and certain mental disorders and the people you pick in your relationships.
That makes sense. My I'm trying to put my mom business out there.
Yeah, you see me trading like I don't want no smoke.
But
because my aunties will never come from my
boyfriend that she brought around us.
That's good.
2 years, and then it was over, and then that was it.
She said nobody else.
Yeah,
I know that's like, right. I like your mama.
She was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar. I think they recently, unless my aunt just brought that up, but it was like psycho-schizo. But she had 4 different personalities, we realized once I got older. But I remember as soon as my aunt said it, I was like, I seen them all. I seen all of them. There was one that's a baby. Oh. And she goes, and her body goes, oh. And I'd be like, and she'd be like, and she'll talk just like a baby. And I used to be like, why are you talking like that? And she would just continue. And then, like, I remember that. I remember her. There's one that my aunt has been with her the longest, and she's seen her from before she had to take medicine until now. And so she's like, so she can write a book really. But she said there's one that's named Sue. She has one that's Sue. She's mean. I've seen her too. She stayed around a little bit long when I was in middle school, high school. I think that was to try to keep us in line. It was she was very, and you can see on her face, like it was very like that. And there was a business one. I didn't really get in contact with the business one. I've never had to
interact with her. Yeah.
My aunt had, again, one of my aunts, they were doing something with my grandmother. They were taking care of her, and she sent an email, and she was like, it was like we worked together, like we weren't family. It was just so business that it was like you're my sister. What are you talking about? And then what is that? 1, 2, and then it was a baby, a mean one, and then it was her, and a business one. Did I say that? Or is it 3? That's 3. But
no, her persona actually does count, if I'm not mistaken, as a personality. So it would be considered. It's 3 outside of the main person. Yeah.
Business, baby, mean one, and then it's her.
Listen,
she was always nice. She was always nice one.
Your mom. Oh, that's so sad. What's the?
Oh, the next topic. My bad.
No, not the next topic. I can't see the thing.
My bad.
See?
It says, your mental health in your family. Do you have it? Does it run deep?
Yeah.
Mine too. I was when I got a little older, like 24. I think I got nervous because I was like,
bruh,
them dice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They gamble because I have. It's like every. No, actually, it's that one generation. I'm thinking, no,
it's a couple.
With my grandma, because my great grandmother had some things that she had to go and get. Like, she had to go into a hospital, and my grandmother had to take care of all her brothers and sisters, and then my mom. But it's like people in that generation that it's like skipped, and then it went this way. So like I was always nervous that if I did have kids. I was gonna get one of them, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not like it's a bad thing, but I was going
Wait,
like.
Why you had to roll a dice? Like,
that's what that is.
Shit, here we go.
That's how thick it is in the genes. You see what I'm
that's
saying?
The thing. Like, I think that if you brown and black, it's gonna be real thick in the genes because of where it come from. but it's thick in my genes too. But I personally believe that there's a thin line between insanity and sanity. And what happens is once this diagnosis is being able to be placed on a person, and especially when pharmaceutical can be put involved and all of that kind of stuff, you know, you can go all of the places with it. But for real, it's really about learning that person's personality. Okay, if you're saying they have this mental illness or this mental disorder, what are the things that trigger that mental illness or mental disorder? I look at it no different than if a person has liver or kidney function issues, or, you know, a heart that is failing. I'm going to treat that heart that is failing, and I'm going to make sure I pay attention to all the symptoms and all the things that can make that heart fail even more. And what happens with mental illness to me is that's not always what happens. It's more so, oh, here's your check of crazy, you know, and here's your bottle of your crazy pills. Normal. And if you take these, you can get somewhat normal. We can't give you normal because you're crazy. Instead of, okay, this is your diagnosis. Per this diagnosis, these are the things that can trigger it. Stress is always going to be there at the top of people's list. So, like, we're black, though. The hell we come from is stress. Everything is stressful for us. So that's one of the reasons why, to me, when we're talking about mental illness, mental disorders, they run deep in our families. But in my particular family, if on both sides, my mother and my father's side, but on my father's side, it runs deep in there. But it's also, they're brilliant. So that's the part. I feel like that's the other thing that doesn't get talked about, is that the most people with the most heaviest mental health issues are the most brilliant people. Like, my father can play a bass guitar with all 5 fingers, and I grew up, well, you know, from the moment I was able to be around him, and my memory of being around him, I never saw him not play with all his fingers. So I assume that's how people played the freaking. Do you know how special I look? Talking about, like, yeah, because you got to play it like this, and people looking at me like, what is she doing? I look really special, air playing the guitar with all 5 fingers. I'm just kicking it.
I didn't even know they weren't
slapping the bass, man. I'm slapping the bass.
Slap the bass.
That's not a thing. Like, some people have to play with a pick. Some people only can play with 3 fingers. Some people can play with 2 fingers. But my dad, he uses all of his fingers to string to create the melody. Like, he just goes, and he, like, when he's holding down here, this just goes like a piano. And he does not know how to read music. He's never read music, and all you have to do is play a melody for him, and he plays it back.
Oh.
And he's always been like that, and can sing like Earth, Wind, and Fire is his jizam. Okay, you probably get a whole phone call about Earth, Wind, and Fire. All right, and like, he is going to go in, but it's really, to me, sometimes what happens is that youth that has this mental disorder, not that they don't have it, so I don't want to quote it like it's not a real thing, because it is very much so real. It's a person with one. There's no outlet. There's no place to really share and showcase that brilliance. And so if there's nowhere and no outlet for you to have and be your most brilliant, authentically brilliant self, what do you do but go inward and create the real of insanity?
I agree with you, but I also think that we don't give it enough space naturally to see how far they go. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, because you can't fix something that you don't know what the highest of it can be in my brain. But like, I think it's something almost like supernatural. Mm-hmm. Because my mom took 12 things of Benadryl. Mm-hmm. They had to give it to her to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. 12 things of Benadryl is like, you can die off of that. Mm-hmm. Like, that's so. I know my mother's brain is like strong. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But like, we don't measure how. Like, some people say, "Oh, I seen certain things." Like, how do you know if like you don't see what they see.
Yeah.
So
Or endure what they endure.
So pushing pills down their throat sometimes is not always the right thing. But if it's certain ways to deal with different situations. Everybody's situation isn't the same, so we can't deal with them like we dealt with Cynthia. You know what I mean? Like we can't deal with your dad the same way we deal with Cynthia because they don't have the same thing.
My dad would have been great with music therapy. That would have been a great if I was a psychiatrist or psychologist and had been able to diagnose and treat my father, I would have given him music therapy all his life, and would have allowed him space to just be the musical genius that he is.
Yeah, like my mom used to. So that reminded me that she used to just walk and talk. So I haven't explained what she does. She used to come into the living room, talk. But me and my brother are so conditioned to it that we don't pick up on it. We just, she's just being mom.
Yeah.
So the one time that I realized that she was different or the household was different is that at like 18, I had a boyfriend and he came over and my mom was in the back talking. And I'm like, he's like, your mom's talking to you. I was like, no. She's not talking to me. And I'm like, no. And I'm listening, like, no, she's not talking to me. He hears her voice, and he's like, I'm going back to the TV, and like she's actively talking, like I'm doing right now. And he's like, no, your mama's. And I'm like, okay, let me just go walk back here so he think I done did something. I'm like, Mom, you want me? Huh? No, I'm not talking to you. Oh, okay. See, I told you.
Yes, I be remember the moments.
I told you she didn't want me. Like,
and he probably looking like, what?
Yeah, I know. He's probably like in the back, like this chick is really having a whole conversation back here. He was like, is your mom talking to somebody? No,
she chilling.
She back there chilling.
She mind her business.
If she wants me, she will say Tony.
She will call me.
Yes.
And that's the part other people would hear that. Other people would have these moments with my dad. And it depended on the person. What I found over the years, it depended on the person that I was interacting with or he was interacting with, is how they responded to him. When I would find people with like, anybody that would start off with, hey, yo, what's wrong with your pop? What's wrong with your dad? Like, all bets is off. There's nothing else for us to talk about. We have nothing else to communicate about. But when people would come and be like, like, yo, your dad is like the purest person I know. Yeah, I can fool with you there. Because it's literally that little kid. Like, I don't think my dad has been ever diagnosed with personality disorder, but I don't know all of what his full range was because I don't know if psychos, whatever. You know how it has the different like psycho, schizo, and all of that. I don't remember which one his is, but I could see a lot of that. Like, he has these moments when he gets very, very childlike, and he is happy-go-lucky in his little kid, and like everything is like, like he is hyper, he is happy, his whole everything is upbeat, and then he has his stern, businessy, like, you have to be upfront. You have to be this. You have to be that. Like, he has that person too. But then, like, one of the things I do notice now, so I know he's on meds now, and what I do notice is that he's calmer, but that's not always a good thing necessarily. I just know he's not doing a lot of the manics when I talk to him that he used to do, so that's good. And I try not to disturb his world, right? Like, my dad, he is comfortable with his brother. He was living with his sister. She passed. My aunt passed last year. And now it's him, my uncle, and my cousin. And it's like, I don't think people understand, like, we don't be wanting to disrupt their world because we understand what happens when their world is disrupted. Like, we get that more than anybody could even imagine. So when people put us in this category of like, we want to do something to disrupt our parents' worlds, it's like,
no,
that is not the case. We want to make sure their worlds are straight.
Yeah, as comfortable
as possible. I just want to make sure he's straight. Don't let nobody
mess with her.
That's it. Is he straight? He's straight?
Right.
Cool.
She
I'm
eating?
good. Yeah. Yeah, he eating his food, and that's what is up with the eating?
I don't know.
Because they will send you a picture I could tell you when my daddy ate, how he ate. What show he was watching when he was eating that joint. Because he going to send you a picture, child.
My mother, that is like clock.
Duh.
She know when it's time to eat, and she will eat all her food. And like, that's how I know, all right, she good.
Yep.
She ate them Oreos.
When they don't eat, you be like, wait, so did you drink water? And you be like, no. Oh, damn. Okay, how long has it been? Yeah. Where is he? Because, like, we went through some years of, like, my dad would go wander off and whatnot and do his own thing. And people didn't get it, like certain family members and stuff like that. I think that's the other thing, too, where sometimes with family members, they don't quite... when they're not in the house, especially growing up and during the time that you were with that parent, if they didn't grow up seeing what you saw, they don't understand. They just remember their sibling. Like, they remember who they know, and it's like, yeah, but I know who I know.
Yeah,
right?
They changed.
Yeah.
You said your dad used to get up and walk away? Like, walk?
My dad would walk. He would,
That's funny. My mom walked.
He walk like 15 talk to himself. Miles. My dad would, I do that. I'm a walker.
Yeah, me too.
I am a heavy walker, but I find meditation in it. And that's the thing. I
it's
feel like.
thing my mother taught me.
Yeah, like.
Without teaching me.
Without teaching us. There's so many lessons.
Take your ass outside and walk in the nature.
And talk to yourself.
Yeah. Do that.
Do you understand how sane I stay by taking my walks? And being very intentional, and I think that's the thing. Their walks weren't necessarily intentional. They were just walks. They would go. But what their walks did to me, from my perspective, is those walks, seeing him do certain things. My dad would get like violent though. My dad, he did have moments where things would get heated and ugly with him, but it wasn't necessarily towards us. It would be towards himself and whoever he thought you were at that moment.
Did he, how did he grow up?
So he is the oldest of 11.
11?
Yeah. My grandma and grandfather had 11 children, 2 sets of twins. They had 2 sets of twins, and he was the oldest. And
2 sets of twins?
Yeah.
How old is your grandma?
Grandma, well, oh God, she passed in 99. So my grandma, I don't know how old she was when she started having kids. So, child, don't ask me that lie. I don't know. I just know I got an uncle.
Did anybody else, like your dad's father and them on that side, have anything?
That's my grandmother and grandfather had 11 children together, and they were together until my grandfather passed. And my grandfather passed when my dad was like early 20s, I believe, like late teens, early 20s. And then like a couple years later, I was conceived and born. And my mother and father made me. That's it. So like my dad grew up.
My mom's the oldest of 4. It's only 4 of them. That's still a lot of
Yeah. Child, 11. 11.
So do any of your brothers and sisters, any of his brothers and sisters, like, he's close to, I know you said your uncle.
No, so that's the thing. That is my functional family. And people don't understand what I mean by, like, all families have their thing. But, like, that is the family where I learned how to love. That is the family where you are who you are, even when people don't like it or whatever, and it ruffle feathers. It's like, we'll give you a heart where to go, but please know ain't nobody gonna mess with you. You know what I mean? Like, we bounce back. So they're not as tight as maybe they would want to be, but I don't think they give themselves credit for how tight they are.
Yeah.
Like he lived with his sister. He now currently lives with his brother and his sister's son, which is his nephew. He's very close. He's close in proximity to his other sister, and if he ever needed to come back to this way, he has another sister and brother here, and 2 or 3 siblings here in Philly. So like, they do a really good job keeping an eye on him, keeping an eye on each other, and tapping in with each other like they need to.
Yeah, my mom and them, they're close to her, very close. My mom they're so close that when I was like 12, she told us, if anything happens to me, you keep living your life, and my sisters would take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them, I was like, did y'all know that's what she said? She was like, no. So how the heck did she know? You know, like, it's just like,
No,
she must have knew she did her job.
Yo, facts on that. My
As
dad
a
used to
big
tell me all the
sister.
time, get to your Aunt Jenny. He used to tell me that all the time. Get to your Aunt Jenny.
My
if you
mom,
need
she
to.
said,
Yep.
if anything happened to me, you take these forms to my job, and then they'll do all the rest.
Yo.
And she would tell me that often.
They prepare. That's one of the things. Again,
It's so crazy.
the way that having a parent who is diagnosed with a mental disorder, a mental illness, the way they prepare you for the realness of life is insane. And I've learned that triggered. I was so prepared for life with my dad, and I didn't have my daddy like all my life. I didn't grow up with my dad. I did not meet that man until I was 7, almost 8. I can remember. He made some choices, even though he be telling on himself now, right? Like, my dad is so funny because he's older now, so he'll tell all the tea. He like,
Sorry.
you good? We supposed to be having you a nigga. Give her a tissue. She said, I'm going to use this.
It's still
She's like, it's a napkin. It
is,
is a
right.
napkin.
It
That's
is.
why I don't understand why people using it as a damn mask. It's a damn napkin.
That's true. We gotta get a box.
You
next
need a
time.
box.
We need a box next
I've
time.
been
Don't
spending
try.
years.
You over here dabbing.
No, because I get emotional when people get emotional. You gotta remember, you getting space for this. I have been given space for this all my life. Because, like, seriously though, there was a point in time where I couldn't have had this conversation and spoke kindly of my father. At no point in time.
Yeah,
so when I say I have been given space for this for years, it took me a long time to realize not only did I actually really love that man, but like my daddy is my homie. I like that nigga. Like, I really, really like him. He's absolutely brilliant. I just wish I had gotten to know him and not everyone else's perception of him. And that's like, I know I didn't say that earlier, but like that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to do this. So that people can get to know the people, not the perceptions that other people form because of the situations they find themselves in with those individuals. Like, because sometimes that shit's not fair. It's not fair.
I used to think when I was younger that, because my mom, she would be so big sometimes.
Physically or, okay.
No.
Personality.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was like, so I shrunk a lot.
Yeah.
And we didn't always get along well because she would just be saying stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about, lady? We over here watching Family Feud and you talking about, like, it was just, but then we would go to like family events and like my family was, one side of my family is Christian and she would throw like little, like, what is it? Like if you threw like a metal something inside of a gear and it messes it up, she did that. She used to do that, and I would get so anxious because I thought they would be just going. I thought they were going to kick us out the family or throw us out. So my anxiety was always at a high level. But I told my aunt one time, and she was like, "Oh no!" Like she said it as if, like, all my life I never thought this. Like all my life I was thinking that they was going to kick me out, throw us out because she would get them. She would get them upset sometimes. That shit. Looking back, I'd be like, damn, that's me. All over again because I do the same thing. I do the same thing, but it don't matter. But she's...
We're gonna put a pin in there. It don't matter.
What?
I do the same thing. It don't matter.
Oh, yeah, no. I do a pin, like I can get people agitated. Yeah, but that don't matter. I get it honest.
Listen, that's the thing. Don't poke me. I get it honest. Don't poke me. Do not poke me. I promise you, I get it honest. I do.
See, I've never seen my mother poked.
I have seen my daddy poked.
I don't know.
I have seen my daddy poked. That's the part. Like, my scariest moment with a parent was with my dad, and it was because it wasn't him. He had a heavy manic one time after being poked and getting in an argument with his first wife, and he zoned out. And I always tell people there's something that happens to the eyes. Yeah. When they zone out, their eyes change, and you can't. It's like you don't see them. It's almost as if there is no actual. It's not them. It is something happens to their eyes, and his eyes clicked, and the next thing you know, he's choking me. I'm off the ground. I'm a little girl. I can't breathe. I'm clawing. He's not looking at me. He's looking at my stepmom at the time, his first wife, and there was no help from her. And I was like, it was such the craziest moment, and that was like such a heavy trigger for me, like such a traumatizing moment, because that was when I have a sister also who has MR, and she wasn't diagnosed at the time. So keep in mind, I'm 2 years older than her, so I'm the oldest, but they didn't know they had an older sister, so it was a bunch of drama when I came around. Yeah, like so now I'm not my sisters no exactly, which she was excited about, to be honest. When it was just us. She loved the fact that I was the oldest and I was the big sister. It was really more so the situation around it type of deal. And but my sister, she's like the Joker where, hey, remember in the movie The Joker, he was giving people the card to tell and try to explain to them why he left. That's my sister. She has that that illness where she's not laughing. She will be bawling, crying, cracking the fuck up. And you will overlook the tears because she's laughing so hard. And that happened in that moment. So I didn't I was in such a dark place, and I had already had a kind of very, very, very ugly, heavy childhood already by that point. It took me so long to understand, and even so many therapy sessions to recognize that wasn't him that did that. Not an excuse for him. That's the reality. That was not him in that moment. Down to the point where my daddy does not have that in his memory. I know for a fact he's on. Because the next day when everything happened, you can tell muscle memory, because that was the last time my father ever put his hands on me. He would not. He refused to hit. I could be punished and be on punishment and can't come out my room, can't go outside, can't do any of the things. But no matter what else his first wife tried, he would not. Because I feel like it was muscle memory. Whatever went down in his mind during that particular manic, he wouldn't take his eyes off of her. And what he kept asking her was, is this what you want? So clearly I had to be a part of their argument. And he was, because that's one of the things too. I don't care what nobody say. People with mental illness, they speak their truth, and motherfuckers don't want to listen to them. They speak a truth that people do not want to hear. They do not want to hear. It's just easier to say, oh, they're crazy. Oh, they have issues mentally, versus, okay, what is it that they're saying? Let me play that back, because as an adult, when I'm in that particular memory, I hear what is being said. As an adult, I know that means that this little kid was a part of your conversation, which caused him to manic. And yes, what happened was wrong. That was, but in that moment, it spilled the beans, and it clicked something on him where, because literally a couple weeks after that happened, she tried some waters and had tested some waters and wanted him to hit me. She had hit me that day, and she wanted him to come home and hit me. And I thought he was, because this was after the situation had happened. And I was kind of over it. I'm like, whatever. This is the life I live, whatever. And I came in the house, and I remember the vibe, the energy was our normal. And I'm like, is this a setup? What the fuck is up? And he in there watching his recording TV, and he come here, baby girl, let's sit down and talk. And the first thing he said is, she want me to hit you, and I'm not. And he was like, you tell me what happened. And I told him what happened. And he was like, all right, Well, when she ain't home, you not on punishment. When she home, you'll be on punishment. Just stay in your room. And that's how me and my dad started talking. Like, I slowly but surely understood after that I somehow instinctively knew I could trust him and to just keep getting the lessons from him. But I seen him poked, and I also watched him be poked and provoked and not react. So, like, that was, like, my greatest lesson when it comes to, like, teaching myself how to keep my motherfucking cool. Because, like you said, we are our parents' children. Don't poke me.
I've actually never, like I said, I've never seen her be poked. I don't think.
Maybe let's not go there. Don't do it. Don't do that. Don't do that to my life. Won't got time. We are going to have more than enough episodes.
Yeah.
Because this is just the first of many. First of many conversations that will be had. For sure. The first of many. So, we'll get there.